Hey guys, let's try this again. If you missed it the first time, you didn't miss much because the wind apparently managed to take over from us. But I'm here today with two very special guests. I have Tribal Councilman Mr. Percy Bird on the left, as you're looking, and Desmond Berry, the Director of Natural Resources, on the right as you are looking. And they're from the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. They have an extremely special announcement regarding a water symposium about Line 5 that is going to be happening. And I'm going to turn it across to Mr. Percy Bird to take it away, sir.
Hello, everyone. Percy Bird, Tribal Councilor for the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. And we'd like to cordially invite all of the water protectors in the state of Michigan to join us Friday, May 19th for the Water Protectors Symposium. And this symposium is going to be covering issues of Line 5 in the Straits of Mackinac. So we have a number of environmental groups coming down, but we'd like to cordially invite you, any citizen that is can hear this message, please come on out. It's at the Leelanau Sands showroom in Peshabytown, Michigan. And once again, that's Friday, May 19th, 2017 for the Water Protectors Symposium at the Leelanau Sands showroom in Peshabytown.
And Desmond Berry, can you tell us a little bit about some of the groups locally that are going to be involved, either being there, having booths there, or having speakers there?
Yeah, so doors are going to open at 5:30 p.m. And for the first hour of the event, what we're going to do is we're going to have the local organizations such as Flow for Love of Water, NIMIAC, which is the Northern Michigan Environmental Action Council, the Michigan League of Conservation Voters, the Women League of Voters, Oil and Water Don't Mix campaign, as well as Michigan tribal nations, their natural resources departments or their environmental departments. And then, of course, we are reaching out to First Nations in Canada as well. So for the first hour, you're going to be able to go around to those different booths and find out what these particular organizations are actually working on and how you can become involved yourself as a part of the solution. So that's between 5:30 and 6:30 p.m. on May 19th. And then from there, we're going to go into the main event, which will begin with a welcome or an opening introduction by our tribal chairman, Thurlow Sam McClellan. And then we're going to have our Anishinaabe Kwe water protectors, our women water protectors, are going to do a cultural ceremony. They're going to conduct that. So we start things off in a really good way. Now the other thing we're going to do is my elected officials, such as Councilor Bird here, they're going to be reaching out to elected officials from other tribal nations within our local region who will be affected by Line 5 when it does burst, because pipelines do wear out, right? So they're going to be reaching out to elected officials from other tribal nations and First Nations in Canada, as well as Michigan State Legislature, our House of Representatives, and our state senators. There's two in particular that have recently authored resolutions and bills to shut down Line 5. We're going to try to bring these gentlemen in and have them address our audience. We're planning on a huge turnout, a lot of people. Stay tuned to GTB official - Protectors of Mother Earth for a full list of speakers and presenters and participants. But again, hold the date, May 19th. Doors open at 5:30. It's going to run till about 9 o'clock at night. But doors open at 5:30. It'll give you that chance to get there. You register, get a folder, a binder from us, go to the different booths, visit with the different organizations, and get the factual information regarding Line 5 and how to get involved, how to make sure your voice is heard in all of this.
Now, there's a couple of questions that have come up. People asking, is there going to be a Facebook event so they can share that?
Absolutely. And again, I refer you back to the GTB official - Protectors of Mother Earth Facebook page. We will be creating that event within the next 3 to 4 days because, and we'll probably create that faster than that, and then we'll be putting that out to the masses, and we're going to ask you to share it, invite your friends. Let's make this event huge. Our showroom is capable of holding about 1,100 people. Of course, we have overflow from that as well. So, you know, we can essentially hold thousands of people. So let's make this event go viral. Let's get as many people that's interested in hearing the facts about Line 5 and hearing what these different groups and tribal nations and elected officials are doing to protect our future, you know, to protect our source of life, to protect our Great Lakes.
Absolutely, and I know that with that event you're going to have co-hosts as well. I know oil and water don't mix. We're going to co-host it along with some of the other organisations,
right,
so that can really go out there virally. And there's some other things you're going to be inviting people potentially to be involved with. There's some big dates coming up with regards to not just Line 5 but other things that are threatening the Great Lakes. Can you run through maybe some of those dates for people that aren't aware at this stage?
Sure, absolutely. So the first date to talk about would be April 12th. And that is a informational session and a public hearing regarding Nestle and Nestle's water grab in the state of Michigan. Nestle's seeking a new permit to increase their groundwater withdrawal rate from 150 gallons per minute up to 400. That takes place in Big Rapids at Ferris State University, and that event begins at 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. with the informational session. And beyond that, at 7 p.m. starts public hearing. So that's the first date.
Okay, and then Mr. Percy Bird, from a tribal council point of view, how do you guys feel about Nestle and their wish to continually take this water from the sacred waters of the Great Lakes?
Well, there seems to be an assault on the Great Lakes as of late, and just as GTB has for thousands of years, we will be here to make sure that that this doesn't occur. But we're against it. We're absolutely against stealing water from the ground to sell it into a bottle. That just doesn't make any sense at all to us. So GTB is against that. Yes.
Well, especially with what's happening in the Detroit area and the Flint area right now. We looked at some facts yesterday, and I don't know if you've heard these facts, but I'm going to throw them out here now. The average debt program for people that couldn't afford their water bills last year in Detroit was $627. There were over 44,000 people that had their water shut off in 2016. And Nestle are paying $200 for this permit. So it's not just the fact that they're making the water into a commodity, but it's the fact that just right on the doorstep. And I know Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians have been involved with Flint. I know that you guys sent some aid down to them to help there. So how does it feel to see this happening with Nestle right here and just down the road to see people that can't even afford to have their taps?
Yeah, it's really a slap in the face. I mean, you know, we have people, just like you said, just down the road that can't get clean drinking water. Kids, mothers can't make formula for their babies because they don't have clean drinking water. And just down the road, Nestle's pulling water out of the ground to sell into a bottle. I mean, it just, our priorities are off here, folks. I mean, we have to reel in the state of Michigan here with who they're doing business with and what they're doing to the environment. Some of these things you cannot put a price tag on. Water being one of them. So I totally disagree with what's going on, and GTB will work, diligently and to make sure that these issues are brought forward to the people, and that they know our policy and our procedures will hopefully work to shut that down as well. I mean, that's got to stop as well.
Oh, absolutely. So with the important dates we've got so far, we've got May 19th, starting at 5:30 for the Water Protectors Symposium, talking about Line 5. Des, you mentioned the actual physical event for the Nestle public hearing about the water withdrawal in Big Rapids on April 12th. But there's another event. If people can't go to Big Rapids, but they have an opinion, which a lot of people right now are talking about Nestle on the feed, what can people do to have their voices heard if they can't physically make it to the public hearing?
Comments are open until, I believe it's April 21st. You can send in written comments. We will, at the end of this feed, I can throw it up in the comment section, but there's a couple of ways you can get your comments to the DEQ. One is by going to Michigan DEQ's website and looking for the Nestle permit application. Another easy way is to go to the Grand Traverse Band website, so that's gtbindians.org or .com, either one, take it right to the same place. Click on the Natural Resources tab, and we've put together a form letter that you can download, and we put the link to the DEQ site there. and other information available on our Facebook page, Protectors of Mother Earth. So there's a couple of different ways you can comment. You can send in written or electronic comments until April 21st.
Absolutely, and you can also, there's a Facebook event out there by Spark the Change, and you guys are able, if you can't go, you can share that event, and that will have the instructions in it. It will also add in the link to the gtbindians.org page as well, and it will give you the direct link to the letter that you can send. So all that will be posted shortly for you. There's some other dates coming up regarding Line 5 though. What's the next date on Line 5 after the May 19th? What's the next big thing?
That's June 12th. June 12th is the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board meeting. We don't have a location. We've been told it's in the Straits of Mackinac, but we don't know the location yet. Now, the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board, that was a board that was established by the governor to review the different reports that will be coming due about the same time. So an alternatives analysis as well as a risk analysis. These reports will be coming due to that Safety Advisory Board, but the June 12th will have an opportunity to hear from the officials who sit on that board, and you'll also have the opportunity to provide public comment and voice your concerns with regards to Line 5. And you get 3 minutes of talk time if you sign up when you get there, provided they don't run out of time. You get 5 minutes if you email ahead of time, so they say. Now, I emailed ahead of time for the last meeting, and they never called me. But I've been told I'll go to the front of the list in June, which is great. I'll take that. But you're supposed to get 5 minutes by emailing ahead of time. So June 12th would be the next date regarding Line 5, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to educate everyone in regards to the risks and the alternatives to Line 5, because there's a lot of alternatives out there. You know, Enbridge has been fear-mongering the citizenship to think that without this pipeline, either Upper Peninsula residents are going to go without heating fuel, or our costs of gasoline is going to go up, when that is all false. 95% of what flows through Line 5 goes out on the Canadian market anyway. Michigan only benefits from about 5%. And Flow has done alternatives analysis, and they've found out the 5% we benefit from is in propane. And that propane can easily be displaced via a couple of rail cars or some tanker trucks. So it is not critical infrastructure like we're being led to believe. So that's why May 19th, it's very, very important that you come out, you get the facts, and you don't just take them from us, right? Because you're going to hear from Flow, you're going to hear from NIMIAC, you're going to hear from, Michigan League of Conservation Voters. You're going to hear from all these other groups that have spent hours and hours and hours of time peering over all of this information and making it comprehensible to the rest of us to understand what Line 5 is really doing, what the risk is and what the reward is. So with the last Pipeline Safety Advisory Board meeting, I know that the Grand Traverse Band did something pretty unusual for that. Percy, do you want to talk about a little bit about what the Grand Traverse Band did for the last meeting to help make sure people could get there, and what's going to happen for the June 12th meeting?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Kevin. Thank you. What the Grand Traverse Band did was we're very, very passionate about shutting down this pipeline. So we passed a small budget, which included monies for transportation, transporting people down to these important meetings that they're having around the state. And this was our first experiment, as we say, in partnering with other environmental organizations, and it was a smash success. So what we did was we rented a big, giant bus, and the tribe has a few tribal buses that we took down, and we loaded up everybody that was willing to come, and we took them all down to the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board meeting in Lansing. And we all had signs, and we had journalism students from the college, and we made sure it was well documented and that we weren't just bringing a bunch of wild protesters. There was very educated people were there. It was a very well represented and organized effort, and it was great to see everybody come together. And I know that we surprised the board down there with as many diverse people that got off that bus. You had all kinds of different kinds of people getting off that bus, and everybody that got off that bus had the same message for the state. And what a great opportunity that was to be a part of that. I'd like to thank you all for those that participated in that. And we're going to try to replicate that effort for our June 12th, for the June 12th meeting. So once again, we're putting it out there now. GTV will have buses, transportation, if you'd like to go down, attend the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board meeting, June 12th, 2017. Information isn't out there about who to call yet, but we'll get that out there before it happens. But just know that there will be another effort similar to the one at the last advisory board committee.
And just fact, if I could touch on that though, because we just had a planning meeting.
Yes.
You were a part of that. Yep. Kevin was a part of that today.
Yes.
With there must have been at least a dozen folks, right, in regards to the planning meeting for our May Water Protector Symposium.
It was great to see all the collective effort from around the state. You got, like I said, it's a very diverse group that sits at that table, and it's a very well represented. The state is very well represented in this group, but we have very varying backgrounds, but we all have the same message. So it was really good to sit down at a table like that and hear people that come from a different walk of life than us have the exact same message that we're saying, so it was good. Yes, we just had that meeting today, and I was glad to be a part of that. Thank you.
And what we heard though, but what we heard in that was that folks learned from what we did.
Yes.
When we sent the bus down.
Yes.
Or the buses, because we actually sent 3 buses.
3 buses, yep.
They learned from that, and they said, you know what, we're going to replicate that. You guys did something amazing there. We're going to replicate that.
Yes.
So we're going to provide a 2, 3, 4 buses ourselves. But then all these other groups are going to do the same thing. So there's going to be ride shares, and we're going to fill the place in June.
That's what we're trying to do, folks.
It's pretty awesome.
We really want the not only the Safety Advisory Board Committee meeting to know that the citizens are all standing together on this. I mean, around the state, nobody has a diverse message, more than we do. We have different reasons why we want this thing shut down, but in the end, we want it shut down, which saves the Great Lakes, and which we're all fighting for the same purpose here. And it's really heartwarming to be a part of this kind of grassroots movement. To see all these different walks of life come together and unify over the water. And what better topic could you pick to for the world to come together? Fresh water. It's really great.
Well, in fact, the Grand Traverse Band, are you not also co-sponsors of a big event coming up right here in Traverse City as well?
Yes, we are. I'm glad you said that. So that event is actually April 29th, and that's the People's Climate March. So we're co-sponsors of that, co-hosts of that with the Michigan League of Conservation Voters, as well as, I'm going to brutalize the name, Miwataka or something, center like that. Brutalize, and I apologize, I'm sorry, or Niatawana, I forget what it is. I apologize, I'm awful when it comes to, like Kevin, when it comes to names. But so there's a number of co-sponsors to it. That is the People's Climate March that takes place April 29th. It starts about noon in Traverse City at the open space. GTB is going to provide a drum, so we're going to have a couple of songs before the event, and then we're going to have Councilor Byrd as our speaker at this event. We have heard Debbie Stabenow, United States Senator from Michigan. She will be speaking at this event. So that'll begin with some speakers, and then we're going to have a peaceful march, and then we're going to come back to the open space. We're going to congregate there, and there's going to be some entertainment, kind of a celebration. So we're going to have the serious, what we're doing, and then we're going to have the peaceful march, and then we're going to come back and just kind of celebrate all together, as what we have in common. Water protectors. There you go, man.
Definitely.
So yeah, Councilor Byrd will be speaking at that event. It sounds like there's going to be 3 to 5 speakers. I'm very grateful that the organization that's pulling this together reached out to the tribe for a tribal speaker for that representation, and I'm very grateful to my elected official right here for accepting that role to speak at that event. He may even be coming back from a gathering of nations a day early just to be a part of this. So that to me shows commitment and dedication as to how important this really is to my elected officials and to Grand Traverse Band. So April 29th, that's the People's Climate March for jobs, economy, justice, things like that. That'll be taking place right in Traverse City. But the day before that, I want to mention the day before that. And the day before that, April 28th, is the Northern Michigan Environmental Action Council Awards Banquet. Every year, this organization, I believe, is Michigan's oldest grassroots organization for environmental activism. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure, pretty confident it is. So they've been around for 40 or more years here in Michigan, organizing citizens at a grassroots level. And they have an awards banquet every year. 2013, I was named the Environmental Professional of the Year and received that award. So I like to go to this event. There is a $25 fee, but it goes to their nonprofit. It goes to their organization. They do great things. And they recognize 50, 60 people every year at that event. People
so it's not really a fee, it's
hard.
more of a donation.
It is. It's more of a donation.
I like that, and that's
But
fantastic.
that's April 28th, and you really need to get there, be a part of that. You know, and that's all over Facebook. I share it all the time. Several people have been sharing it. We've known about it for months. But then it's pretty awesome because the very next day we go to the People's Climate March. And we get to listen to some really great speakers, including my elected official here. So be there.
That's awesome, and just to recap for people that are just joining, on May 19th at 5:30, Grand Traverse Band are going to be holding a Water Protector Symposium talking about Line 5, and they were just talking about the fact how important it was for the tribal consultation, because this tribe, the Anishinaabe people, have been in this area for thousands and thousands of years. And Line 5, which is now in its 64th year, in those whole 64 years, has the tribe, Percy, ever had any consultation with Enbridge?
No, and
So was today? So was it historic today? Today was a historic day.
Today was historic. Enbridge reached out to the Grand Traverse Band and asked for a sit down to go over some of the Pipeline 5 issues, and we were very happy to host them this morning. But no, we have never gotten to sit down. The tribes rarely get consulted on anything, even from the state. We'll whatever issue is coming up, we'll get a letter. Thank you for your interest. You know, we looked into it. We're still going to do it anyways. So that's usually the extent of the consultation. But today was an actual sit down. We actually got to sit down and look into the eyes of the Enbridge crew from Michigan, which was
there 5 of them were there.
It was 5 of them, yes, sir.
Five of their representatives this morning.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about that, because unfortunately I wasn't able to sit in on that one. And there were some pretty strict rules, as I understand it, as to like who could be there and what could be said and how it was going to work and all that good stuff.
Yes.
But let's talk a little bit about it, because that's a really historic point, because obviously you've shaken... Something's happened to shake them up and make them want to come and actually have this conversation. So maybe those buses turning up at that meeting may have had a difference.
And that is a direct correlation and related to you out there, the people, the grassroots movement. Thank you so much. Really, Enbridge is they're shaking in their boots now. They didn't come all cocky like they do to the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board committee meetings. They were very, very humble, and they were very well. You know how Enbridge is. They try to dazzle you with their safety data facts, and try to get lost in the numbers and the studies. But our position will never change. We don't hate Enbridge. We don't hate the company Enbridge. But there's a 5-mile stretch of their pipeline that runs under our waters that we do not like and we will not stand for. And that was the point that we hammered home to them. We were letting them know how culturally important Lake Michigan is to us, and not just because we want to go swimming in the summertime or we want to throw a fishing line in. And this is when we're telling our children our creation stories. It involves the lakes. It involves water. Everybody spent their first 9 months of creation in water. So we were trying to really hit the point that that's our life's blood to our Mother Earth, and we can't have anything that jeopardizes that. So that was really the point that we were trying to make to them. So
And I will say it was I guess I'm pretty fortunate to have been involved in that meeting. And I'm not just an employee for the Grand Traverse Band, but I'm also a tribal citizen. So I'm a duly enrolled citizen here. And you know, I was beaming at one point in the meeting with just mass amounts of pride because this guy here, he just pins them right back in their chair and demands that they answer a question.
What was the question?
Well, hold on. They tried to answer it somewhat politically, and he didn't let him off the hook. He says, well, that's all fine and dandy, but you didn't answer my question. And the question was, what's more valuable? What's running through those pipelines or what those pipelines are running through? And he demanded that they answer it. And I'm going to tell you, all 5 of those Enbridge officials finally, after a little bit of arm twisting, said water was more valuable. That was awesome, man.
So,
that was so cool to see. I was just like, wow. It was great.
So just recap there. You have 5 officials, all from Enbridge, coming to give you a dog and pony show you bits of pipe, blind you with theoretical science of how great this pipe is.
Yep.
And instead of them doing that, you put the question to them, which was more valuable, the oil in the pipeline,
Exactly right.
or the sacred waters of the Great Lakes?
Exactly. And I made them each answer separately. I didn't have everybody say it. We went right on down the line. You, and you. So, and I did that on the basis that never will what you have in them pipes be as valuable as what those pipes run through. So let's not try to talk apples to apples. You know, it's not the same thing. So I wanted to make sure that their commitment was, at that point, their commitment has to be to the water. You know, that when you're going to drink a glass of oil when you go home, that's not how it happens. So that was my whole point, was this is the more valuable resource, not the oil. So that's kind of why I nailed him down like that.
And I think they all left there with a different respect for at least the Grand Traverse Band, and maybe a little bit, it might have been a little eye-opening for them, because that was pretty cool.
Yes.
To have them actually think about it.
Yes.
And have to answer it.
Just some of the things they would say is like, well, Enbridge has had interest in the pipes in the Strait since 1953. And I told them politely and respectfully that the Grand Traverse Band has had interest in the Straits for 5,000 years. And that we've managed this lake for 5,000 years without incident.
Yeah.
And in 1953, you launched your assault on our lake. Now we're not having it. Okay, so that was kind of the whole point, the whole gist of the... And of course, you know, they, like all Enbridge people, they're trying to throw their data and their stats around and their safety record and this and that. And I said, that's fine. You can say what you're going to say, but at the end of the day, our position is that pipe has to be decommissioned. So it was pretty groundbreaking, and like I said, it got pretty emotional, and my voice got pretty shaky sometimes. I was trying to hold it together, and I just wanted to scream out, you know, what the hell are you guys doing? But that was in my heart, but my voice, you know, stuck to the business plan, so that's awesome. What I tried to do, and it was awesome. But it was really great. Like I said, they try to dazzle you with their facts and their, you know, all this data and this study and that study and what they do, and you know,
did they bring any pipeline with them?
Yes.
Yeah, they brought a chunk of pipeline in about this big and passed it around and told us, look it, you can still see mill marks on it, and this was actual pipeline, and you can still see all this coating, and it didn't, you know what, the bottom line is, it did not work with my elected leaders. They didn't buy it. So that's pretty cool, man. Yes. I feel really good today.
Yes, yeah. We were not going to be dazzled by facts. I mean, there's only one fact, that when that pipeline ruptures, our lakes are ruined, and that's the scariest fact out there, you know. And it's not if, it's when it ruptures, because it will rupture.
Did you talk about, you know, when it ruptures, if that happens to be in the winter when the lakes are ice covered? Did they have any kind of solution to that?
We got the guru here. We got Des with all the facts. We've been fighting this pipeline fight for a number of years now. GTV has, you know, silently behind the scenes fought this on our own. And Desmond asked them very bluntly, if this rupture were to happen in January or February, what would your plan be?
What was their plan, Desmond? I'd love to hear what Enbridge's plan was.
Oh, it's pretty great. First time I ever heard of it in my 20 years of working in this field. I'm not a pipeline expert, but I have been working for the Natural Resources Department here for the tribe in various positions since 1997. It's the first time I ever heard this. They would utilize chainsaws. Okay? They would utilize, so if the straits were to be iced over,
Oh, man.
they would go out there with chainsaws and they would cut channels. They'd run one chainsaw this way, and then parallel to it would have another one going. So they would do this. And then they would bucket like you do a tree in like 6 or 8 foot sections and take it out of the lake and flip the ice over on top of the other ice, and it leaves an open channel. And at that point, what that's going to do is the oil is going to funnel to that channel. And in all actuality, it's going to work like a boom, but almost better because it'll make cleanup easier. That's what we were told today. I didn't even really know how to respond other than, wow, that's interesting. The first time I'd ever heard something like that.
I had to fight back a laugh because on when you talk about their pipeline, they want to throw you all this data and these stats and this survey and that survey and this pig and what we do to it. But then when you ask what the cleanup method is, now it's like he dug into his Fred Flintstone book of cleanup tactics, and we're gonna use the chainsaw. We're gonna cut channels in it. For some reason, they thought that cutting channels in the ice, like that's the only place the oil is going to go, is where those channels are. It's spreading out under the water. It wasn't as technical on the cleanup end as it was on the constructing and installing and maintaining end. I tell you that, and it really.
It was eye-opening.
It was eye-opening. It's very scary that their plan
Correct.
involved chainsaws. Can you believe that? And the straight, it's very humorous and it's very, very alarming. Very alarming that they sat down and they said that. I mean,
because we know better. I mean, we absolutely know that it's impossible. I mean, how long would the bar so the way a chainsaw operates is you have a steel bar, and then it has a chain over it to a sprocket. So they call it a bar. They don't call it a blade. It's called a bar. And you get various size bars based on the size of tree you're cutting. So you have a 16-inch bar, a 20, a 24, a 36, a 48, a 54. Mm-hmm. So these huge bars in some cases. But when Kevin and I were up in the Straits, like, I don't know, 3 weeks, a month ago, somewhere around that time frame, you could see flow ice that was literally the size of automobiles. Yep. And 7, 8, 10 feet thick, yep. Okay, cramming into the Strait. So you're going to run this chainsaw.
There's a guy with a 10-foot chainsaw.
I mean, how long is this bar going to need to be to actually cut through that?
Exactly.
And then, so what do? You fill up because a chainsaw requires what's called bar oil, because you have steel on steel. So to keep friction down, what are they going to do? Fill that up with vegetable oil? Exactly. I mean, what's the? I don't know. Anyway, it was laughable, but again, it was eye-opening. It was eye-opening in the sense that we just sat here with a company who administer this massive
billion-dollar company.
Yeah, billions of dollar company administer massive pipelines, and they have all this technical data and about we're going to run this tool and that tool, this smart pig. They're called pigs, but this tool, that tool, this tool, that tool. We're going to do this hydro test. We've done that. We're going to do all of this technical stuff. And then when we ask them if you have a spill, and they start talking about their contractors being in Sheboygan, and they have these booms, and they have all this stuff set up, and then I say, well, what about in the wintertime? Then they throw chainsaws at me. I mean, that was alarming. It is laughable, but it was.
No, it's really scary.
It was alarming,
scary.
Man. That was alarming
because they were dead serious when they said it, and they didn't go ha 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 April Fools, and they were dead serious. They talked of pulling chainsaws out. Now, the United States Coast Guard, with their icebreakers, can't even get through there in the wintertime. They just shut it down.
They shut down because they can't run an icebreaker through it.
I mean, these guys. I mean. What their plan involves is
wow.
I don't know who's approving these methods at the state level, but I think some of these cleanup tactics really, we may have to take a little closer look at them because it really sounded cartoonish when we were explaining it. Like it was all so simple. We just cut these slits in the ice, and all the oil will flow right in where those slits are. It was just like, did you even think about that answer? That just and I'm not even a professional, but that just sounds absurd to me. That you could just cut, and then that's the only place the oil's going to go is where you cut channels in the ice.
Yeah, because it's going to create some type of a
vacuum.
A vacuum is what it made it sound like. You cut these channels in there, and all of a sudden there's going to be like this great suction that's going to pull the oil into this crevice that you just cut with these chainsaw, and then you're just gonna go in there and soak it up with absorbent pads.
Yes.
Well, it don't work like. I know it don't work that way. Well, even the whole thing about they got booms now to cordon off the straits. Yeah. Well, whoop-de-doo, right?
Do these booms run to the bottom?
That was my question. It's like, well, what do you do about the flow, the currents that say 2 feet off the bottom and 260 feet of water? You have currents at the bottom as well, so it's going to push the oil down here for several miles, and then it'll surface.
Yes.
So if you put a surface boom on, awesome. But what about this stuff down here? And the currents, they said it themselves. They said, well, we've recently learned that the currents switch from east to west about every 3 days. Mm-hmm. So they're aware of it now. They weren't aware of it in 1953, but they're aware of it. So, the boom thing isn't going to work. The bottom line, folks, is the takeaway is I don't care how many times they tell me they got it worked out. There is not. There is not a response plan that's acceptable.
They don't. They're right there. They drop the ball, folks. I mean, there's your 3-alarm fire right there. If this thing breaks, they don't even know how they're going to clean it up. And if it breaks in February or January in the winter, they're not cleaning it up until the spring. And I can guarantee you that. So
yeah, it's really scary. And there's someone, Wendy Martin, is commenting a lot about the Kalamazoo River. I don't know, did that come into conversation?
Oh, we talked a lot about that. And what we heard, it was that they learned so much.
Oh, good.
They're a better company because
exactly. They for the Kalamazoo spill, they went into this big long spiel about the welds. There's 2 types of welds.
Oh yeah.
Welds along the length of the pipe, and that's what they're saying. The welds along the length of the pipe. There was a defect in one of the welds, and it caused the failure of the pipe.
Yeah, and I said, so 30 plus years later, it finally decided to fail?
Desmond said, oh, well, if there's a defect, it took 30 years for that defect to come about? And they're like, yep.
So what he explained with Kalamazoo in line 6B is, this is the pipeline, and so...
I'm going to zoom into your pipeline.
So this is the pipeline, right? This is line 6. And what that is this is called a side seam. Right? Can you see that, Kevin?
Yeah, we see the side seam. It's where the fold is on the paper.
Yeah, so they weld this way. So they weld lengthwise on the pipeline. What happened with 6B is they said a weld 30 plus years, because line 6B was in 70s, and then it ruptures in 11?
Yep.
Was it 11 or?
I think it was 10.
10. So it ruptures in 10. Well, what happened is a weld let loose on line 6B. Boom. Creates a rupture like this. Okay. Now what they told us with line 5, why they don't have to worry about that is, I'm going to rip this in half, is because here's your pipeline, like this, and they joined pieces together like this, and they have what's called a butt weld. So instead of the seam weld, they have made it sound like solid rolled piping that 20 feet sections were butt welded. And then it was pulled into the lake. And then you come along and you weld another section on. So it's called a butt weld. So you only have a 20-inch diameter pipe, twin oil pipeline, under the Straits of Mackinac that are welded like this, butt welds, not along the seam. That's what they told us, and that's why it's safer. Well, not to mention the fact, if you look at the 2 pieces of pipeline they did bring in, there was a considerable difference in the thickness of the 2. Yes. And they claim line 5 under the Straits was this piece.
Almost an inch thick, they're claiming.
Yeah, 0.8 or something.
0.8 inches.
Should be. It's supposed to be 0.812 is the minimum thickness of the pipeline, according to the House resolution put in by Youssef Rabbi and also the Senator Jones. Those figures were mentioned in there.
And they claim they've been testing it now. They've done three inspections.
Well, that's a lot of inspections.
Since 2011, one every other year.
How often do you get your fire extinguishers inspected?
Yeah, it's annual.
Annual, okay. Just checking.
But that just started in 2011. So from 53 to 2011, there was only one test done. And it was a hydro test. And a hydro test, for folks who don't know what that is you ramp up the pressure inside the pipe with water up to 1200 psi. Okay? They did one of those. And it was right after they installed the pipeline to say, oh yeah, we can turn on the flow of oil. And they have not done one until... They still haven't done one since then, but they're going to do one this summer.
Yep.
So they're going to do a hydro test in June. It'll be the first one they've done since that original one in 1953.
Yep.
And they just started running the tool, the Smart Pig. They have a tool that checks corrosion. They have one that does X-rays on welds. They have one that checks the pipe wall thickness. They have one that so all these different tools that they run through it, the Smart Pigs. They just started utilizing that in 2011. They've utilized it 3 times every other year now. So, it's brand new. These inspections are brand new. Really.
Yes.
They're brand new.
And we even asked them what was the purpose of running the pipes under the straits, and they very basically said it was the shortest route.
Yeah, money.
So there was no other reason to put them under the water than they didn't want to spend the money to run the pipe to go around the lake.
Well, and they originally, back it up for a second though, originally he said it was to get the tankers off of the Great Lakes.
Yes.
And then the follow-up was, well, why did you select the Straits of Mackinac? Why didn't you just stay in Canada with your pipeline, since it's your pipeline,
Exactly.
It's your oil, it's being sold in your markets,
Yep.
not here. And it was, well, it's a shorter route.
It's shorter. That was their answer.
For real.
Well, at least they're honest.
Yeah. Well, in some respect,
kind of scary.
It took a little teasing to get that stuff out, though.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, when you spoke about the Kalamazoo River, to my knowledge, and to a lot of people that I've spoken to, that still isn't cleaned up.
Yeah, and they had a guy there that was supposedly representing the cleanup of Kalamazoo, and let's just say he wasn't very vocal at this meeting. He kind of sat there nodding his head because he knew that Kalamazoo's not cleaned up, and it's been all these years later. And they talked about the money that they spent and blah 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 blah, and it just.
Oh yeah, the financial assurance is part of our discussion this morning. He said, well, we've pretty much demonstrated that we have the money because we've invested $1.2 billion into the Line 6 cleanup so far.
Yes.
So to them, that should be enough to satisfy everybody, just to know that they're rich, and they've spent $1.2 billion cleaning up the mess they made in Kalamazoo, but they're very rich, so that should be enough to satisfy everyone's concern.
You should rest assured that they have the money to do the tests adequately.
Well, and then they said they could tap into Coast Guard or EPA funding for cleanup as well.
Federal funding.
Federal funds. $2 billion federal funding account set up that he talked about, which I'd never heard of. That we could tap into that too.
So we can have the taxpayers clean up our spill if we spill our oil in your lake. Is basically what he said. So, folks, I mean, if you're not infuriated by this point, I'm not sure if you can be infuriated. You're probably a Buddhist monk, and you should teach me some of those tricks. But some of the things that these people said were very alarming. I told them, I said, you're trying to put a dollar sign, over your oil and pretend it's more important than our water. And I basically said, the citizens of Michigan are not having it. We're not accepting that you took a shortcut through our lake, and supposedly we're supposed to be okay with it. So we did that in as polite a respectful manner as we could, but
you weren't rude at all.
So
seriously, you weren't.
You.
You did fantastic. I don't think anybody was. It wasn't that type of meeting where there was...
Right.
It really wasn't. But they understood very clearly
yes
where GTB stands on their line.
So there's a couple of questions that came in here, and one of them is, do we know if they own their own cleanup crews? So do they, as well as owning an oil company, do they own an oil cleanup company? They make money on both sides.
I do know that, and
yes, I don't.
Yes, they do. And this is how this is. If you guys want to find out a lot about these issues, there's a website you can go to, bigoilwhistleblower.com, and on there is a part about how the oil company makes a profit 5 to 6 times more off from an oil spill than they do off just selling the oil. And this is how they do that. When the oil leaks, when they have an oil spill somewhere, they buy all the land that the oil leaked onto for less than value. Okay, they still have the mineral rights to everything underneath it, but they get the actual land for dirt cheap because now it's contaminated and has to be cleaned up. So what happens is they call after their spill, they call their insurance company. The insurance company calls the cleanup, the oil spill cleanup crew, and there's only one company that's qualified to clean up oil spills, and that is Enbridge. So in essence, Enbridge, through their leaks, they get their land cheaper that the oil is on, the pipeline is on, but then their insurance company hires them to clean up their own spills. So they're making 5 to 6 times more profit off this process. So that's why people wonder why aren't they working harder to have less oil spills? Well, this is why they actually profit from an oil spill. So
and they do their own testing.
And they do their own testing. Yes.
Why don't just to me, to my mind, it would seem that it makes sense that you've got Company A that puts this thing in, and Company B that has no relation to Company A comes along and looks at it. Kind of like your fire extinguishers.
Yes.
You have your fire extinguisher. You have a company that comes around every year and makes sure fire extinguisher does what it says it's going to do.
Yes.
It's going to be there in the case of an emergency, and if it's not, you get a huge fine.
Yes.
You get a certain amount of time to sort that problem out,
yep.
and they can shut places down that don't have the correct fire regulations.
So third-party verification?
Yeah, kind of what I'm going for.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's kind of something I forgot to mention is I did ask for their data today, and they asked if I wanted it in report form or raw, and I said no, I want your raw data. And they said, well, let me understand what you would do with it. I said, well, we would have it analyzed by another source. Yeah, by another source. We're not pipeline safety experts.
Right.
We're not pretending to be.
Yep.
I run a natural resources department, right? I supervise it.
Yes.
I have biologists and technicians and ecologists and stuff. So I'm not a pipeline safety expert. My tribal counselor here is an elected official. He's not a pipeline safety expert, right?
Average Joe. Average Joe.
Oh no, he's beyond an average Joe. But okay, so he's an elected official. We're not pipeline safety experts. So I said, absolutely, I want to have it. And they said, once I mentioned that, said, well, it's something we can take back. So immediately they came in as, we are Enbridge, but then it fell back to, well, we have to take that back. So they're going to discuss it. If I can get my hands on the raw data, that'd be great, because there's plenty of engineers, mechanical
That's
engineers,
right. Yeah.
Out there. There's other pipeline safety experts that I'd love to get. Dr. Ed Tim, he spoke down to the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board. I'd love to get some of this raw data and put it in front of gentlemen like that and have them provide an analysis rather than Enbridge to collect the data, analyze the data, and tell us what it means. It'd be great to have somebody other than that take that data, peer through it, and say, okay, here's a summary on what it means. The pipe isn't this thick, it's that thick. Or,
Right.
whatever it may be, the cathodic protection isn't working the way it was designed, the coating is flaking off or not, whatever it is, because we really don't know.
Yeah.
We just have to trust Enbridge.
And that's where Desmond was smart enough to ask for the raw data and not their interpretation of that raw data. Because had we just asked for their interpretation, they would have painted a really rosy picture.
They'd have handed that over just like that.
Our data shows, they would have given it to us right today.
Yeah.
Our data shows it's safe. Our data shows this, but once you show raw data, now raw data doesn't lie. And of course we wouldn't be able to interpret that, but we could get people that could interpret that. And as Des mentioned, that their whole demeanor changed. Well, we'll have to go back and get you that information. You know, so obviously what that said to me that their interpretation of that raw data isn't what the raw data itself said. So that's kind of what that said to me.
Absolutely. So to wrap this up, guys, can we just go back over the important dates that are coming up in a brief summary for everyone that's watching, how they can get involved?
Go ahead.
Me?
Yep.
Okay, so May 19th, it's our Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians here, Leland Off Sand Showroom. It's our Water Protectors Symposium. Doors open at 5:30 p.m. That's May 19th. April 28th is the NEMIAC Awards Banquet in Traverse City, Michigan. April 29th is the People's Climate March. Begins about noon at the open space in Traverse City, Michigan. We're going to have a drum ceremony to start things off, and then we're going to hear from 3 to 5 speakers. My elected official here, Councilor Byrd, as well as, it sounds like, U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow will be there as well. April 12th is the Nestle public hearing and informational session in Big Rapids, Michigan at Fair State University at the University Center, 805 Campus Drive. We will put other details in the comment section, or Kevin can edit his post and put it there as well. But those are the important dates. So there's 5 very important things taking place. That's the recap.
And June 12th.
June 12th, yes, that's the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board meeting. We do not have a time or a location for you, other than we know it'll be held somewhere in the Straits of Mackinac on June 12th. We are working with several other groups, organizations, locals, and we're going to provide bus transportation to that event. Stay tuned. GTB official, GTB as in Grand Traverse Band official -- Protectors of Mother Earth, right on Facebook. You can get all this information. Kevin's been working hand in hand with us. Spark the Change. All of these places, Kevin, GTB official, Protectors of Mother Earth, Spark the Change on Facebook. All of these places will have all of this information. Stay tuned. We're going to keep this up, man.
Absolutely, and there will be events posted. There's one event posted for the April 12th so far. The event for the Water Protectors Symposium will have an event up on the GTB official Protectors of Mother Earth page. And I did see some questions about the beautiful piece of artwork right behind here, which is the Thunderbird woman. We're here to protect, and that is Isaac Murdoch and Christy Belcourt of the Ottoman Collective. And they are up just outside of Serpent River in the First Nations, Canada. So they are the ones who designed that. You will have seen many, many, many of those at Standing Rock and at all the different places to protect the water. And I'm sure you'll see them at the Climate Summit and also the Pipeline Advisory Board meeting. So once again, I'd like to thank Tribal Councilman Percy Byrd for attending today, and his sidekick Desmond Berry.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Miigwech.
Bamapi.
Bamapi.
Bamapi.